When I was introduced to doTERRA, I was in the midst of trying to keep my yoga studio afloat. I loved the oils, but I was apprehensive about network marketing, and I didn't have the capacity for another business. But my upline really believed in me, and she never pushed me, but I watched her business thriving, and it was just from that inspiration that I eventually leaned into the business opportunity. And it was really from a place of desiring freedom. I wanted to be free from any limitations that were keeping me from being my most generous, whole, kind, loving self. So about a year after we hit silver, I became a mom for the first time. And leading up to our daughter Poppy's birth, I just had worked really hard. I just worked really intentionally to plant some seeds and really just to gather some momentum so that I could peel back a bit after she was born. We had a really beautiful home birth, and Poppy was perfectly healthy when she was born. We were so grateful for our doTERRA income, and Marty was able to be home with us for the first 3 weeks. Then the unexpected happened, and on the evening of Halloween, we found ourselves in the ER with Poppy. She was just 6 months old, and we were flown to Salt Lake City, where we learned quickly that she had a ruptured brain aneurysm. We found out that it was incredibly rare. She was the youngest case of this particular type of aneurysm, and we waited through the night until morning when she could have the emergency surgery to put a clip on the affected vessel. We were in the hospital for 3 weeks while Poppy recovered, and all the while my doTERRA income was steady. So my husband never had to leave our side the whole time that we were there. I believed wholeheartedly that doTERRA was part of God's provision plan for our family, long before we could understand what we would really need. And at the time, I was barely just discovering how true that was. Poppy was rapidly improving at home. But the day after Christmas, we found ourselves back in the ER and back on a flight to Salt Lake City, where we learned that Poppy had experienced a second ruptured brain aneurysm, which shocked everyone. It had developed quickly, and it was unheard of. So our surgeons decided to go forward with a second procedure to sacrifice the entire vessel, which we knew would cause a stroke, but nobody could predict how that would affect Poppy's motor skills going forward. There was literally nothing for me to do. We had no choice but to surrender. We were not in control, and so our faith was everything. I mean, they thought she could maybe never walk or talk. So it was a total miracle after miracle. She was moving all of her limbs within a day. Yeah, during this time, something shifted with our doTERRA team, and we hit gold while we were in the hospital while Poppy was still recovering. I struggled a lot in my business up until that point, trying to figure out what I offered my team, what I really had to bring to the table for them. And I had had this opportunity leading up to that time to decide to show up for them and to serve them and to love them and support them. And it was amazing because then there we were in the hospital and they totally showed up for us. In my yoga classes, I have always taught that expectation keeps the lid on possibility. And I know that for myself, when I've been able to release and just move through my expectations and my own understanding, there has been possibility and opportunity and blessings beyond what I could have ever imagined beyond what I could have ever dreamed of. 1 year after we experienced all of that with Poppy, a year later we became Diamonds. And we have certainly faced a lot of unknowns. We've dealt with a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety about our daughter's health. And there is absolutely no way I could have turned Poppy's care over to someone else. There's no way I could have returned to work outside of our home, and by the mercy and grace of God, I didn't have to.